So let's talk about the book of Genesis. For a lot of people, it just seems like this collection of really bizarre, kind of random stories. But what if they're not random at all? Today we're diving into a really cool take on how all these stories actually lock together to form one single unified narrative.
Is Genesis really just a jumble of ancient tales? You've got talking snakes, you've got these weird angel-human hybrids, a flood that covers the whole world, and a tower that makes God mad. It's easy to see why you might think it's all disconnected. But the source we're looking at today says, nope, there's a powerful, consistent theme holding the whole thing together.
And here's the big idea. Every single story in Genesis, from Adam all the way to Joseph, is basically designed to show us two fundamental choices. The same two choices that God offers every single one of us. It's a theme that just keeps popping up, growing, and building to a really powerful message.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at what those two choices actually are. Then, we'll see how humanity's first rebellions, including a wild one involving giants, led to a divine promise. We'll cover the big reset of the flood and the rebellion at Babel, then follow God's plan through a very flawed family. And finally, we'll see how this whole epic story gets summed up in the life of just one guy.
All right, let's jump right in at the very beginning. Genesis chapter 1, God is bringing order to all of creation, and he puts humanity right at the top. Their job was totally unique. They were made to run the whole show.
Now, this phrase, made in God's image, is absolutely key. And it's not about what we look like. It's more like a job title. It means humanity was created to be God's representatives, his proxies, tasked with ruling the world wisely for him. That was the whole plan.
But then, of course, a problem shows up. A spiritual rebel, the snake, slithers onto the scene and presents humanity with a choice. So here it is, the big choice. Are you going to stick with your calling and rule over evil, or are you going to give in and let evil rule over you? This single decision becomes the central conflict for the rest of the book.
So how does humanity do with this first big test? Well, spoiler alert, not great. Right after Adam and Eve, their son Cain finds himself facing the exact same decision.
God literally comes to Cain and says, look, sin is waiting right outside your door and you have to rule over it. But he doesn't listen. He's full of jealousy and he lets that evil take the wheel and murders his brother Abel. He makes the wrong choice.
And Cain's choice, well, it just starts this downward spiral. As humanity grows, so does the corruption, and it leads to one of the absolute weirdest passages in the entire Bible. To get what happens next, you need to know this term, sons of God. In the Old Testament, this phrase refers to angelic, spiritual beings.
So these angelic beings, these sons of God, they rebel, they have kids with human women, and the result is the Nephilim, these angel-human hybrids who become like ferocious giants. Now, other ancient myths might make these guys out to be cool heroes, right? But the Bible? It says this was a total nightmare, a complete distortion of God's design, and a huge part of the evil that was corrupting the world.
But right in the middle of all this darkness and chaos, God gives this little glimmer of hope. He makes a promise that one day a descendant of humanity is going to come and crush the head of that snake, that original rebel. This is the very first hint of a rescue plan. The world gets so corrupt, so out of control, especially with these Nephilim running around, that God just hits the reset button. He sends a global flood and saves only Noah and his family. It's basically a do-over.
So after the flood, you'd think the mission would change, right? Nope, it's exactly the same. God tells Noah's family the same thing he told Adam and Eve. Fill the earth, spread out, and rule it well on his behalf. Reflect his good image everywhere. And what does humanity do? They rebel. Again. Instead of spreading out, they all huddle together in one place and start building this giant temple tower. But they weren't building it for God. The text is very clear. They were doing it to make a name for themselves. It's like the ultimate act of collective self-promotion. Okay, so the consequence for this is huge, and it's a detail that a lot of people just skim right over. A passage in Deuteronomy reveals that when God scattered the nations, he didn't more than just mix up their languages. He basically handed them over to the authority of those same rebellious sons of God. Since humanity didn't want the true God, he let them fall under the influence of these other spiritual powers. So yeah, this is a real low point. But God's not done. Not even close. Instead, he kicks off a brand new plan. He picks one guy, Abraham, out of a family that worshipped idols, to start reversing the curse of Babel and redeeming the world.
And Abraham himself is like a walking example of this whole two choices thing.
On one hand, he's got this amazing faith, like when he believes God's promise for a son. But on the other hand, he messes up, big time. He lies about his wife to a king. He tries to force God's promise to happen on his own terms. He's a mess.
And it's through this guy, this totally imperfect guy, that God lays out the next piece of his rescue plan. He promises Abraham that through his family, all those nations that got scattered at Babel will eventually be blessed. The reversal of Babel's curse starts right here.
The story continues with his grandson Jacob and this famous dream he has. And you got to see the contrast here with Babel. At Babel, people tried to build a tower up to God. But in Jacob's dream, God shows a staircase coming down from heaven to earth. This reveals the third great promise. God is going to bring his kingdom down to us on his terms.
Okay, so the book wraps up with the story of Jacob's son, Joseph. And his life story isn't just one more event. It's like the entire book of Genesis packed into one person's life. It's a fantastic summary of all these themes.
Just check out the parallels. They're incredible. Joseph has a dream of ruling, right? That's humanity's original job. His brothers get jealous and betray him, a total echo of Cain and Abel. But here's the difference. When Joseph is tempted, he makes the right choice. He rules over evil. He's eventually raised up to represent the image of the king, and in the end, he saves his whole family, just like Noah saved his. It's the whole story in miniature.
So after everything, everything, his brothers put him through, he finally sees them again and says this incredible line. And that line, that's pretty much the main point of the entire book of Genesis. It's all about how God can take the absolute worst choices that people make and somehow weave them into his ultimate plan for good.
So what about those 3 big promises we've been tracking? How do they all pay off? Well, the source connects all of them to Jesus Christ. That promise of the snake crusher? It's fulfilled when Christ defeats the power of evil. The promise to bless all the nations, that happens when the curse of Babel is reversed and God's message becomes available to everyone. And that third promise of God's kingdom on earth, that points ahead to Christ's future return. And that kind of brings us full circle, leaving us with this one big question to chew on. Genesis shows us this consistent pattern. Humans constantly choose evil, but God is a master at redirecting that evil for an ultimate good. If that's true, what does that mean for us? For the good and bad choices we face in our own lives today? It's a powerful idea to think about.